Hi, my name is Greg Andrus. I'm the Vice President of the Democratic Party of Evanston, and this is part of our ongoing video interview series with all of the municipal candidates for this upcoming election. I'm here today with Carolyn Murray, who's running for alderman in the 5th Ward. And before we get started, I just wanted to say that I can't apologize for enough for what happened at the previous Zoom event. It's an unfortunate reality that these people are out there, and I just wanted to give you a minute before we get started to say anything to our audience that to address that issue.
I do want to just clear up that I really had no idea the whole attacks were taking place individually to those participants that were on the meeting. And my reaction once I found out for those who were on the meeting was just out of concern. I tend to kind of neglect myself to look out for everyone involved. I think I've spent predominantly most of my life just looking out for others as opposed to myself. So I don't think that I use any profanity, but I will apologize that if it seemed a little too aggressive or if it was offensive to those who were on the call. I was definitely trying to look out for the event that someone could have all the audacity to attack Evanston. I really took it personal. I really did. And we're working with the police that have now recently just updated today that they've turned it over to the FBI. I'm very, very interested in fully cooperating to get this solved.
So all of these questions came to us from our members, and the first one we got a lot of different variations of. How well do you feel that the City of Evanston has upheld its goal of evaluating decisions and policies through a lens of equity?
It's definitely work for progress. The Evanston I grew up in, although being very young and naive, is not what I see reflectively now. Overall, we need to progressively start working together, making a means of the conversations and the concerns that the residents have raised throughout the city. We need to progressively look at bringing committees together, looking at the city internally as well as external, bringing communities together, bringing wards together to seriously start looking at how overall Evanston can address the inequities as it pertains to race and as it pertains to poverty, how we address our concerns and moving forward with action as opposed to conversation.
We got quite a few questions from our members about policing. The first one is, how would you go about weighing conflicting calls from constituents, some of whom might want less of a conventional police presence and some of whom may want more?
We just have to really be honest about the times that we live in. Unfortunately, the policing as we know it has not been very fair to some and has been very coerced with others. So when you're looking at policing overall, we need them, but we need them to be respectful, we need them to be professional, and we need them to move forward in a way that no one feels mishandled or mistreated. And definitely, as it pertains to FOIAs and information, no one feels miscommunicated with as well. So we have to objectively look forward to see how we can put into action implementing non-conventional methods that we probably never looked at before. Mental health crisis worker to respond for emergency situations is definitely needed and necessary as we move forward in our scheme of policing. It must be on the table moving forward. As a veteran, I know that we have emergency response teams that come out when a veteran is in trouble, that is trained and is able to handle mental health issues as it pertains in the veteran world. So let's move forward and sitting down to the table, coming up with some strategic plans on how to get community policing into our neighborhoods effectively.
For those residents calling for less of a conventional police presence, do you feel that the city is doing enough to assure them, especially the Black and brown residents, that they're not being over-policed? or if they are, that they're holding individual officers accountable.
Until we have zero complaints from the Black and brown community for police response or police arrest and issues, that is the litmus test on when we have done better. For what we have done right now, we have to strategically, I stress this again, we have to strategically look at, the police budget historically has hit, we've cut, we really have cut. Now I'm not trying to underplay it. Now they're now in a stalemate that they're not rehiring those vacant positions. But they haven't. At one point, our chief didn't even have a secretary. I mean, we have seen a cut. Victim witness protection, other resources that we have within the police department, they were cut when those budgets were cut. But moving forward, where they cut in the essential areas where we're seeing a displacement, where we're seeing the marginalized numbers of the complaints that we're seeing from the people in the Black and brown community, were those concerns affected? And that's what we're not seeing. So we're definitely going to have to look into a way to relieve the stress and pressure of an officer who's not qualified responding to a call that can get overall a lawsuit to the city of Evanston because you're mishandling the Black and brown community. We got to address it. It's been going on for years. We have to address it. We have to do better collectively moving forward.
So FOIAs, especially those made of the Evanston Police Department, have become something of a contentious issue lately. How do you feel that the City Council can make that process more transparent and accessible to Evanston residents?
I really don't think that you have a way to make an excuse for not being in ordinance with state regulations. I mean, if we're not doing as a city what we're supposed to do, as a representative for a council, I'm not going to be in agreement with it. I'm just not. You know, we have laws and statutes for a reason. Evanston can't systematically respond to FOIAs when they want to, and then don't respond to FOIAs when they don't feel that it's necessary to give out that information. And if we're wrong, wrong is wrong. And as a representative, I want to correct the wrongs and put us together collectively to correct them and make them right.
So would you like to see that return to the council, to the clerk's office, or do you think it
I want to see it
now?
go in the most effective way that it will be handled, so that we're not behind like we are currently, and we're not legally fighting to keep the information withheld or not in ordinance with the legal rights to withhold the information. I want it to be corrected. Now, if it goes through the clerk's office, fine and good. But if we had issues with the clerk's office, and I don't know if it was because of the professionalism of the clerk, I wasn't on the inside of the internal backlash of it. But I know what's going on right now, and right now we're not getting it done.
So there have been some critics of our current system for investigating police misconduct, which is the board that's appointed by mayor and approved by city council. Do you think that board is functioning as it's intended to, or what changes would you like to see made to that?
Well, with the complaints and the community response that I've been seeing, I would to say that it is not working. I would like to see it more independent and more objective to weigh in concerns outside of the police department. I don't think that the police can really effectively police themselves, and I don't think that it's in the best interest of an elected official to be in that realm as well. There are professionals that are proven to be independent, and I think that we should seek those out, and those to be determined for those type of situations. I really don't want to mix too well with oversight within ourselves. It's going to be hard to look at ourselves and blame ourselves, but we can collectively look at the open criticism from outside and work that into a system that works for everyone.
This next question concerns a specific incident that happened last October. It was when the city of Evanston brought in the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System officers, or the NEPAS officers, to address protests down by campus on Halloween. Do you feel that the city of Evanston's oversight over NEPAS is sufficient, Or what would you like to do to see that relationship made more accessible and transparent to Evanston residents?
I'm aware of the incident. I, from my government experience, know that when you have these partnerships, that it works for the good for a loss in many. I believe in the decision to be involved in that partnership. However, the professionalism and the ethical responsibility that you have as a sworn officer, that surpasses. You just cannot show up and disrespect anyone or have any type of side conversation that you could be held responsible for. We were trained that as government agencies, it's horrendous to have a conversation about some basic common sense. And I think that when you have officers that breach that confidence that the public has entrusted with them, that's what we're talking about. I don't think the relationship itself plays on that, because God forbid there was a flood or there were emergency situations where that partnership is needed. So we break the partnership. If it's cost effective, I could see the city, weighing it out. But if we can afford that partnership, I believe that is a part of an agency that we should be a part of. Because if we don't have the manning, then that smooths that overage over. However, but when you have participants that knowing that this is their job, knowing that they're supposed to be responsible and respectful at all times, the person, like I said, the leadership that's over that, then you take accountability for it, but you definitely discipline those officers that are not being within a respectful, fair treatment.
Is there anything about the culture of our city government that you would like to see changed?
What I have struggled with over the years is the alderman role to be paid or non-paid, to objectively look at some of the things that we can do, lessening the responsibilities from the city manager to a more centralized government with the representation for council. I think that for right now, we need to progressively put some systems in place that maybe the work and the taxiing of an alderman could be re-implemented. I think that it works for us and it has been working. However, being inundated with the concerns and the cause and the issues and playing on some of the things that we vote on, things that we're privy to with developments, I've seen some not so. I can see the need for the initiatives coming out in the city the way that they are. So I would be interested in looking at a city government that could put more weight into having some background on some of the developmental issues, taken away from some of the things that an alderman systematically votes on, but taking away that same responsibility from the city manager's position as well. So am I open to it? Yes, I am. Do I think that this is working for us? Yes and no. But I think that because of the way these initiatives have been going for the last 4 years, it might be something that could be on the table for me as well.
So you'd like to see some of the manager's duties given to the city council?
I could definitely see that. However, I and some of the initiatives have questioned the expertise and the skill set of a common alderman to be able to make those decisions. When it comes to business development and some of the planning and some of the commercial buildings downtown, there has been some misrepresentation. And I'm seriously open to looking at weighing that in an independent forum as well.
So the next question we got concerns the environment, and specifically Evanston's Climate Action Resilience Plan. So as you know, it has a goal of a carbon neutral Evanston by 2050. Do you feel that goal is ambitious enough, or what do you see as the largest challenges we face in implementing that goal?
Compared to what we have right now, I don't think it's too ambitious. I really think that Evanston lacks when it comes to looking out for environmental and the quality of control when it comes to the environment. I just remember from hosting the ward meetings back in the day when we had started with the recycle bin, just a little bit, and how, the residents were in outrage because they felt like their rights were being violated by putting this, the recycling stuff. So it's no disrespect, it's not funny, but I just remember how resistant people were to change. And I think that if we collectively do a citywide promotion of the value of the CARP, of the climate action plan, I think that it would go over much easier, because who would not want to participate in the overall embetterment of the environment for your children's children? But I think that if you don't educate and you don't give resources and you don't communicate, and I'll say citywide, I want to see the schools, I want to see the churches, I want to see the businesses, and especially my small business owners in the community be a part of it, be aware of the resources and the education and the benefit of this plan.
So the next one is a broader question on the city budget. Do you feel overall that expenditures made by the city of Evanston appropriately reflect the needs and priorities of Evanston residents?
Well, there's definitely room for improvement. The previous budgets and the whole issue with Robert Crown is, I would say, some of the strong passion that we've seen with our residents. And probably, I would say, even half of the candidates probably would say that that's part of the reason why they're running, is because of the lack of response to the needs of the public. So with that, I could see our budget being a lot more reflective to services. I am truly concerned with the marginalized disproportion as it pertains to services, coming off of the incident with the Zoom call, the lack of services as it pertains to COVID response. And that call was traumatic. And if it was 17 people on that call, 17 people were affected, but there was no system in place for them to be able to reach out to as citywide. There was no resources standing by for citizens who felt like they had experienced a terrorist attack to get proper relief or proper response from as a city. COVID-19 as a city. So whereas I know that services cost more money, but we have to really look at a budget that is reflective for the people, because if you don't get services in the city of Evanston, you're going to move out. And that's what I've been experiencing in the ward since I've been advocating here.
Even before the pandemic, it seemed as though downtown Evanston was full of empty storefronts, and the pandemic has only exacerbated this. What do you believe can be done to promote development in a way that prioritizes local ownership and small businesses?
Well, I definitely say that it's exacerbated my small businesses in the Fifth Ward. I can only speak for the Fifth Ward and how they feel rejected and not accepted in some of the rollouts to the grant monies and the opportunities that the downtown stores have been able to benefit from. Not being able to even get the communication or the follow-up with resources that the city of Evanston has put out. Do we have to do a better job? Yes, we have to do a better job. What's to say? We all in this together. We are, no businesses district, i.e. Fifth Ward, should be able to say, well, they do more for downtown than they do for us. We should be doing the same across the board. Downtown, Central Street, Fifth Ward. It's just not right. So what do we need to do to help them? We need to get the communication with the boards. Again, I say communication, because the biggest part that I see more and more every day that they are saying that they're just not communicating with us. We don't know how to get those resources. So collectively, I would like to see the resources start with the communication, start with the assistance of the loans, start with the assistance for any grant monies. I want our city staff to look into statewide loans, federal loans, And if we are eligible, if we're capable to either receive it or pass it down to our businesses so they can.
Despite the number of new residential units constructed in Evanston over the last few years, especially in some of the high-rises approved by City Council, housing costs in Evanston continue to go up. Do you feel that the inclusionary housing ordinance is doing enough to combat this, or what other solutions would you like to see implemented?
I would love to see the numbers of my Section 8 vouchers in the 5th Ward. And I would love to see, are we systematically not allowing lower income families to obtain housing in the 5th Ward? I've seen that be an issue previously, advocating throughout the ward. Are we doing enough? No, we're not, because my residents are leaving. Marginalized, my black and, well, especially my black families, traditional families that I grew up with on this block in our community, they are leaving. They can't afford to stay here. So are we, again, resourcing every benefit that could possibly help them? So what's happening right now, people, you can't stay in your house if you don't have a job. You can't stay in your house if you don't have any money. You definitely can't afford to stay in your house if you park on the wrong side of the street and you get a $75 ticket. I mean, we have to make it not only housing affordable, cost affordable, recreation affordable. Have we taxed all the way out the door? And there's nothing that we can do on a common level but the property tax increases? So are we doing enough? No, we're not doing enough. What can we start to do? We have to start looking at those organizations that we are allotting monies to help with those lower income families that need housing assistance as well. I want to see the numbers. I want to see how much are we helping and what is the disparities to the ratio of help and to the families that actually need the help.
So this next question concerns something that happened in the 5th Ward a few years ago. There was discussion over building a pumping station here in the 5th Ward. If you had been alderman back when that debate was happening, do you believe that that's something you would have voted to support? Or
I definitely would have listened to the residents that were in the surrounding areas that were most affected by it, and I believe that the residents were not, as my role when I attended a couple of the meetings, they were not in favor of it. They were not in favor of the way it was proposed. They were not in favor of how it was trying to be rolled out. They felt that they were blindsided by the information and the communication that was put out. So there you saw the lawsuit and you saw the level of rejection. So here we go again. Are we trying to support the residents and find a collective negotiation, or are we just spewing out things that would financially be in the best interest of the city? Or what is the disconnect? So as an inspiring alderman to be, I would have to say that you have to seriously look at the response to the city, the residents, the citizen residents, to see if this is even fallible. What is the middle point if we should or should not have it? Well, to this day we don't have it, so obviously it's not the most effective of the way that the city presented it to begin with.
So these next two questions are ones that I'm asking all of the non-incumbents, all of the newcomers. Why alderman? So of all the races on the ballot this year, of all the different ways to throw your hat in the ring for public service, why did you choose this race specifically?
Well, I can honestly say I'm not interested in being mayor. That's for sure. I'm not interested in being mayor. I'll let them haggle that out. I'm good. It is what I've been doing. It is something that I've advocated through in so many different facets of the different groups. It is the history. It is me feeling the passion of living here. And not a week goes by, not a day goes by where something comes up and it requires either my attention, my opinion, my support, or my advocacy. So if you're doing all of this and you're getting a good response from the people in your neighborhood, what best way to serve? what best way to put words into action?
So as a final question, if you're elected, you'll be replacing the outgoing Alderman Simmons. What's one decision of hers that you would say you most agree with, that you're most proud of her for making?
I would applaud her on taking the initiative to bring about the awareness of reparations to the Black residents that were affected by the municipal damages that were done throughout the years, historical years in Evanston. I applaud her for taking up the mantle. As you know, former Alderman Lionel Jean-Baptiste introduced it, so I would definitely give her kudos for that.
Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, there are some practical changes that I would like to make if elected as the alderman. I would carefully look at making the monthly ward meeting move to different locations throughout the duration in the timeline of a year for the ward members, so that it would be easily accessible for the seniors near the Jacob Lake community. We previously hosted them at the Fleetwood Center. We're looking to possibly even go to a more internal meeting location within the Ebenezer Prim Towers itself, permitted, with the COVID situation, if we could ever go back to those public locations. But I feel that it is necessary and very essential to add to opening up the communication on an ongoing dialogue with the business owners and owners who have businesses that live in the Fifth Ward. We're going to have to initiate those meetings. We're going to have to create dialogue to make sure that the voices of the small business owners and the business owners that are residents of the ward, even if their business is not in the ward. So we are now collectively trying to gather and collaborate together as to how we can filter through some of these loopholes that they've been experiencing. I'm very concerned about the support or the lack of resources that these Fifth Ward's businesses have been receiving. And the only way to combat that is to have a regular meeting scheduled on the books that I can hear openly, comfortably their concerns without any cause of recourse, that they are dialoguing with me. I would also, because I am definitely looking at a strategic plan to combat violence in my community, in the Fifth Ward. I've been screaming this before Justin was killed. I need the police to have a meeting with the Fifth Ward residents on an ongoing basis. Not when a crime, not when a homicide. They need to meet and talk with my residents on a regular basis so we can start talking about how we can bring back community policing, bring back some of the key issues and things that are going on in this community that the police can assist us with. Not police us with, assist us with. And that communication, I promise, will happen if you elect me as alderman. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are watching, the ballots for the endorsement event will go out on January 17th. They're due back in on January 23rd. If you're not a member yet, you can sign up as a member on our website, evanstondems.com, either as a dues-paying member or if you'd like to get your member as a volunteer. We have a couple of events coming up that you can volunteer for and become a member that way. Thank you so much.